if the person is obligated to go to Golut, it has to be a shogeg. It has to be unintentional. The Gemara says it excludes the case that he intentionally had in mind to kill somebody. You don't go to exile. So the Gemara says, of course you don't go to exile. Someone intended to kill someone. He gets killed. You don't need the plus time you don't go to exile. So the Gemara says, he says, I thought I'm allowed to kill this person. He thought he was allowed to. And if he says he thought he allowed to, and he killed the guy, even though he didn't know it was forbidden to kill the guy, we don't give him to exile. Why not? Because that's not enough. That's called karuv lemezeh. That's called it's not enough of a shog. It's not inadvertent enough because he intended to kill the guy. The fact that you didn't know that you couldn't kill him does not mean that it's not the shogeg. It's not the inadvertent that the Torah will say you go to exile. To go to exile, it has to be a certain type of crime that the exile will act as a atonement. That's the point of the exile. But if the crime is too heavy, then the punishment needs to fit the crime. And if the punishment is exile, it has to be a crime that's worthy of exile. So if the crime is less than that what's worthy of exile, total accident, he doesn't go to exile. He doesn't go to Golut. If the crime is too much, too big of a crime, also won't go to exile. It has to be like the in-between, a certain type of level of a crime, that there was a little bit of, he could have avoided the crime, but it wasn't real, it wasn't total negligence, but it wasn't total accident. Something like in between. If it's too close to negligence, or if it's too close to negligence, or it's too much accident, he won't go to exile. Is that clear? Exile is on the middle, it's in a middle type of case. Does everyone have that clear? That's going to be a very big theme of the Gemara. Now, you can ask the question, Tosfos asked the question regarding Shabbat. We know by Shabbat, to bring a karma chatat, there's a karma called a sin offering. What's the case of a sin offering? What does a person bring a karma chatat? One of two ways. Either he didn't know today was Shabbat. He didn't know it was Shabbat. He forgot it was Shabbat. And he went ahead and he cooked. He put up a tea. He cooked the water on Shabbat. Chas v'shalom. He cooked water on Shabbat. He didn't know it was Shabbat. So what's the law? Morning, Michael. He brings a karma chatat. Or if he didn't know, the malacha was forbidden. The guy did not know. If he didn't know I can't cook on Shabbat, and he cooked on Shabbat, what's the law? He brings a karma chatat. He also brings a sin offering. Those are the two classic cases that a person will bring a sin offering on Shabbat. Either not knowing it was Shabbat and he violated the sin, or knowing it was Shabbat but not knowing that this particular act is forbidden on Shabbat. Is that clear? So Tosfos asks the question, why is it when it comes to Makkos, when it comes to killing somebody, why is it different that the shogeg of the Torah, when the Torah says, good morning, Mars, good morning, Michael, when the Torah says, shkaga, that he did an act unintentionally, why don't we define it the same way we define unintentionally when it comes to Shabbat? Unintentionally by Shabbat is not knowing. Good morning, Yosef and Tzaddik. One of the cases, Safti, is that you hear the question? One of the cases of unintentional by Shabbat is not knowing that it's Shabbat. And another case is not knowing that I can't do this act. So the same way, if a person does not know he can't do this act on Shabbat, it's called a shogeg. So if a guy doesn't know that he can't kill, why don't we also call that a shogeg? It's two different rules. That's true. But why? You're right. It's two different cases. But why does this definition of shogeg apply when it comes to Shabbat? You say not knowing I can't cook on Shabbat, not knowing that that's called a shogeg, and here not knowing that I can't kill is not called a shogeg. That's the question. Good morning, Mr. Haber. Yes. Michael, you hear Tosfos' question? It's very serious. Okay, so what does Tosfos answer? So Tosfos says the Torah writes the word shogeg multiple times. The word shogeg, by emphasizing the shogeg, is emphasizing it was inadvertent. It was not with intent to kill the person. So by the fact that the Torah writes the shogeg many times, it's telling you it's definitely, we're talking about something that happened without any knowledge, so to speak, that you're murdering somebody. And by telling us that, it's indicating that if it would be a shogeg that you know you're killing somebody, but just you don't know that it's forbidden, that will not fall into the category of shogeg when it comes to the case of murder. That's not the case of shogeg. It has to be a different type of shogeg, meaning to say you did not know you were killing someone in the act that you were doing it. But if you, the Tosfot is Ela Pran Omer Mutar, the second Tosfot. But Tosfot asked the question. If you look, I'll read the Tosfot. You have the Tosfot, the second Tosfot on the page, Nathan, Michael. You see the second Tosfot headline. What's the headline? I saw someone this morning reading a newspaper, but the real headline is the Tosfot. That's what the real news. That's the real news. What article? Articles, paragraph 2, right, Mr. Haber? On the Tosfot, on the right side. This is the real what they got to be reading in the morning. That's the more important thing, okay? Ella. Okay. Ella Fran Omer Mutar. I mean, I don't have a problem if he's reading the newspaper, but this is the more important thing that he has to learn. Ella B'Omer Pran Omer Mutar. V'kosher. So that's the question. The guy b'chaylev. The guy b'shabbat. When it comes to chaylev, good morning, Akiva. Chaylev is certain fat that the Torah forbids us to eat. From kosher animals, there's certain fats from kosher animals that we're not allowed to eat. And by the way, certain parts of the animal we don't even use because it's hard to get rid of that fat. So there's something called nikur. Nikur is you got to remove certain fats. So if a guy eats that fat, he didn't know I was doing a sin. He knows he can't eat certain fats, but he didn't know it was chaylev, and he ate it. He has to bring the korban chatat. Or v'gam Shabbat. V'ksiv b'shneim shgaga. By both cases, the Torah writes that if you ate the fat that was forbidden for you to eat, and you did it unintentionally, or you violated Shabbat unintentionally, it says v'chayavim b'perek hagadol b'tinuk shenishma bein hanachrim. A Jewish child that was captured was by goyim. He was, let's say, the goyim took a child. They brought him up, but he was brought up as a Gentile, and he was over by mitzvah, and he violated Shabbat, and he violated and he ate not this chaylev. He never knew anything about Shabbat. He was growing up by the Vatican, Rahman al-Islam. He didn't know that the church took him. It took him as a baby. And then he discovers I'm Jewish. We had what, Madame Albright, who was the Secretary of State that found out that she was Jewish, right? Because she was taken during the war. A lot of Jewish kids were given to, little babies were given to the Goyim. And then they found out later on they're Jewish. They didn't know they're Jewish. There's a lot of these thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of these type of cases. So when they find out they're Jewish and they found out, they realized that they violated, they did sin, not knowing. They didn't know they're Jewish. What do? They got to bring a korban chatat. They go to the Beit HaMikdash, bring an offering because they even though that's called shogeg, they didn't know. So Tosa says the same thing, the same way over there. That's called shogeg. They didn't know. They still have to bring a korban. So also that's called shogeg. That's called unintentional. They did it unintentionally. They violated the Shabbat. There was a violation of Shabbat. There was a Jewish person who violated Shabbat. They didn't know. Okay, you still violated the Shabbat. You intended to do work on Shabbat. You didn't know. You have to bring a korban. So too. Why don't we say the same thing when it comes to murder? I didn't know I couldn't murder the person, so I didn't know. So that's cool. That should also be called a shogeg. So why is that excluded from shogeg? That is Tosa's question. What's the difference? There are two different cases, as Mr. Safdie pointed out. But why does it not all the fact that different things are different cases is the law different? Sometimes you have different cases. It's the same law. What bracha do you say on an apple? Border creates. What bracha do you say on an orange? A border creates. One's an apple, one's an orange. Two different cases, but the law's the same.
Do not kill somebody is like you cannot know that.
Okay, but for some reason the guy says so like we said, maybe he said I thought I'm allowed to kill this person. But he thought, you know what, the guy said a bad comment to me, I thought I have a right to kill him for that. You know, maybe the Wild West, maybe that's how they think. I don't know. What?
What is between them?
Okay, but the question is the root.
You can't have kapara for, for same way if you tell Moshe Hara, you can't
To keep-
get an atonement. Same way. if you
Unless,
kill someone.
unless, it's a good nice point. If you told Lashon about somebody, you have to ask the person for forgiveness. But and one is that you say Shabbat and Chelev is between you and God. Shabbat and Chelev, I violate Shabbat, it's between me and God. I ate and I kosher. But here, when I kill somebody, that's not enough. That's not, meaning, but you're saying that maybe that could be the explanation why Galut is not. The Tosfos says, the Tosfos gives an answer because the Torah writes the word shkaga multiple times when it comes to murder, emphasizing the inadvertent aspect of it. But if you did it in cold blood, as they say, you intended to kill the guy, even though you did not know, that's not the case that the Torah is telling you go to exile. Exile is not enough when you intended to kill someone. I don't care if you thought you were allowed to kill the guy. But a korban, by not knowing that this was forbidden, that it's enough to bring a korban. And we can use Dr. Navid's logic. By a korban between you and God, God said this is enough. You bring a korban, that's called unintentional, and that's enough called unintentional that we're gonna. What'd you say? No, but I'm saying, but exile is not enough. The point is like this. No, a korban is enough when it comes to you and God. God is easy. God said, but if you, God is going to be tougher when it comes to murder. God is not going to put the category of shogeg on cold-blooded murder. That's what Dr. Navid is saying. Because someone's life was snuffed out. And therefore, when Tosa's question was, why don't we say the same thing by murder? If you didn't know, that also should be called a shogeg. That's unintentional, because we're not going to label, good morning, we're not going to call that unintentional. That's not the unintentional the Torah is referring to when it comes to galut. And the logic we're saying is, going to exile needs to be a kapara. The punishment needs to fit the crime. And the crime of cold-blooded murder of somebody, even though you didn't know you couldn't do it, you didn't know what's forbidden me to do it, exile is not sufficient. But he didn't learn it. But he didn't learn it. But it's not enough. We have the concept that sometimes that galut, exile, is not enough of a punishment, and therefore you can't give him that punishment. It's not enough. He deserves more. So what will be the more? God will deal with it.
Rabbi,
The court can't deal with it. Yes.
This I'm having a problem with this because how come he doesn't know that murder is wrong? Because even the goy knows, Hashem knows, tell the goy that you cannot
Very
murder.
good. So we gave a scenario, Akiva. We gave a scenario where the person thought that I have a right to kill the person. He thought that he rationalized that, you know what? I'm a right to kill this guy. This guy insulted me. You know what? He wrote a not a nice email about my business or whatever it was. So I'm saying, it's some sort of rationalization. That could be some sort of, we'll see in the halacha, but that could be maybe he goes from other reasons in that case. Okay, but okay.
It's interesting that before I ask this question.
Okay. Tosis is a man of interest.
I know, but like the fact that he asked this some question, like he really probably thinks that it shouldn't be a shogeg.
Right. He's asking the question because he says we have the word shogeg used in both cases, by Shabbat and by Galut. And why do we apply it one way by Shabbat, a different way by Galut? That is Tosis' question. Tosis answers because the Torah by Galut, by exile, mentions the word shogeg multiple times, emphasizing the inadvertent aspect of the matter and intention. And therefore, the fact that you intended to kill the guy directly, the fact that you didn't know, that's not going to fall into the category of shogeg. That's Mr. Haber.
What does it say by Shabbat?
It says shogeg, b'shogeg. But it only doesn't mention multiple times. That's Tosa's answer for his question. Okay.
He doesn't say the shogeg and the pita.
But Tosfos here says the word, it says shtaga multiple times. Okay, now back to the Gemara.
One more question.
Yes. We'll take two questions also.
There's a difference between not knowing, there's a difference between not knowing something is not allowed, I don't know I'm not allowed to murder, and thinking that the murder is justified.
So meanwhile, we're not making that difference. Meanwhile, we're saying if a person,
Said he came onto my property and I killed him.
you might have a
I was
right to
like,
kill him.
I know it's wrong to kill, but I thought I could kill him. So in
Right,
general,
right. So we're going to see the Gemara. We're going to have a Gemara that says that the case of going to exile is only when both people had a right to be there. Let's say like the case of the Torah is you're coming to the forest. The forest is open territory for me and me and everybody else. But if a guy trespasses my property and he comes down and I boom and I knock him out, there's no golo. Now, of course, now the question is, did I have a right to do that? That's the question. We know if a guy comes to steal from you, you might have a right to, I might have a right to kill the guy because he knows I'm not going to stand by. He knows the owner of the house is not going to stand by, allow someone to steal, and he knows I'm going to stop him. He might come to. Yes. The Torah seems like if a guy robs someone's house in the middle of the night, you have a right to kill him. Boom. Because you know why you have a right to kill him? Because he knows you're not going to stand by. And you're going to stop him. And what are you going to do if you're going to stop him? What is he going to do? He's ready to hit you. He's ready to fight you. So he's therefore, in a certain sense, he's ready to kill. The guy who's willing to come into your house in the middle of the night, knows you're not going to stand by. He's not only coming to steal. He has a pistol, he has a knife, or he has his hand that he's ready to kill. He's not going to allow you to knock him out. So therefore, they'll kill him first. Don't wait. Don't do like the New York Police Department. Did you see a weapon? Did you see this? If they respond after the fact. We had a mayor who used to be stop and frisk. That was the point of that. Get the guy before he's attacked. Don't wait till the guy attacks. Now you can't stop and frisk anybody. Yes. I don't know if you want to say something, right? The Torah wants us to protect the innocent, not protect the offender. Today's day and age, the focus is protecting the offender. The Torah has such a law. Someone who's coming to kill, today's day and age, I have a friend who is the Orthodox police officer. He said that if he's running after somebody, if somebody has a gun, if he can't shoot the guy unless the guy turns around to him. You understand? The guy has a gun. He's in pursuit of the guy. Because if he shoots the guy and the guy has a bullet in the back, he's off. The cop is finished. They find a bullet in the guy. Yeah, so it's terrible. Yes, you want to say something, Michael? But Rashi gives the case. You look at the Rashi. That's the case. You go. It says if you know he's not going to kill, let's say somebody's father is stealing from the son. A father will never kill a son. So then, if a father comes in and breaks into the son's house, the son can never kill the father for breaking in because his father's never going to. Because if he's going to try to stop his father from stealing, his father won't kill. But the case of the Torah is when he comes in, no one's
go for the legs.
Right. I presume even if you have a right to kill him, even though we see someone's going to kill you, have a right to kill him, that was probably, we have to look it up, was probably mean in a case that's the only way you could stop him. But if you could stop him, most probably in some other fashion, if you could shoot him in the leg, and and you don't need to kill him, you don't need to kill the guy. I mean, a guy is not obligated, a Jew is not obligated death for stealing. A Gentile, by the way, is obligated death for stealing. One of the 7 mitzvahs by Noach is they're not allowed to steal. And if they steal, and there's a witness, they go to the court, they have a right to they get killed. Different than a Jew. A Jew, they have to return him. That's the frame. But if he's breaking in the middle of the night, then it's a different story.
The court really killed him. I feel like probably wasn't.
By non-Jews, you mean?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
When was the Jewish court in
let's say in Eretz
in
Yisrael,
cars, and there was a
well,
goy
probably
who
Eretz
was
Yisrael, maybe get Toshav, they accept the 7 mitzvahs by Noah. And they still.
One last question, since Davis spoke more. When I looked up the Torah for Bamidbar,
Yes.
it says Beshigab, okay, only once, and then it brings another sentence few seconds later. So it's not like one sentence has 2 times saying Beshogeg.
Yeah, but the Torah is, there's a pasuk, very good. There's a pasuk in Bamidbar 35:11 and also 35:15. So in 35:11 and 35:15, so within a few, but again, but the point is, it says in the subject matter of going to exile, it uses the word, and by the way, being within 4 psukim of each other, first of all, is very close to each other, by the way. It's not like you're in another sefer, but even so, okay. All right. They say if you're, they
The same like we had in the last when we were learning before, like same word 2 times.
right. Okay, now let's get to the next case in the Gemara. The next analyzation of the pasuk is, and that's why he says the Gemara had a question. The Gemara says that's called mezid. He refers to this case. The Braita refers to saying I did not know was forbidden to murder is karov lemezid. That's called close to intentional murder because you should have known that you're not allowed to murder, and therefore we call that the Torah is excluding that case. You don't go to Golut for that type of case. So now the Gemara says, bivli dat. The first word of the line is bivli dat. The Torah says another word to imply, to infer, to teach us that it has to be inadvertent. To go to exile, to Golut is inadvertent. It's bivli dat, without knowledge. Prat lemischavein. So the Gemara says, what is this coming to teach us? Specifically, if the murder took place without knowledge. But if you had intent, you will not go to exile if you had intent. So the Gemara asked the obvious question again. Mischavein pshita. If you intended to kill the person, it's obvious you don't go to exile. Bar katalahu. He's obligated death. If you intended to kill somebody and you were successful, person was successful in killing the person, he's a bar katala. He's obligated death. Of course, he doesn't go to exile. It's interesting. We're learning these Gemaras about murder, and we hear in the world murders going on in the world, and it's unbelievable what's going on. But if they would learn the Gemara, they would know how we think about how serious murder is. Amar Rabba. Rabba says, Prat, this pasuk is mischavein harogas habehima. You had intent to kill an animal. There was an animal in front of you, and you intended to kill the animal, the harag es adam. But instead of killing the animal, you killed a person. So some want to explain the Gemara the following. There was, right in front of you, there was an animal and there was a person. And you aimed to kill the animal. But the person was right next to the animal and you killed the person. So in that case, the Torah is telling us you don't go to exile. Exile is not enough for you. Because the fact that you know there was a person right next to this animal and you shot with the knowledge that there's a person right there, that's high-level negligence, and exile is not enough of an atonement. Galut is not enough of a kapara. He needs more punishment than that. He doesn't get off the hook by just going to galut, so to speak. That's one way some commentators explain the Gemara. Others explain that he thought it was an animal, but it was a person. Or he thought it was a guy, and it was a Jew. Or he thought it was a nefel. He thought it was a child that's born God punishes the person. The court doesn't kill a Jew for killing a Gentile. God punishes the person for killing a Gentile. And the third case of the Gemara is a child that was born in the old days. If a child was born in 8 months, the child would generally not live, an 8-month baby. Or a child that was born within the first 6 months. That child was not, a lot of times that child will not live. And if a person would kill that child, that child that won't live, they're not obligated death for killing such a child, because that wasn't a child that was going to live. But he was mistaken. But really, he thought it was a child that wasn't going to live, but it really was a child. It was a full-term baby. It was a baby that was a viable baby, and therefore, if he made a mistake, he thought he was killing a non-viable baby, but he killed a viable baby. For killing a non-viable baby, there's no death for that. But it's not enough for him. But he really killed a viable baby. In those old days, if a baby was born in the 8th month of pregnancy, or before six months of pregnancy, what? I'll tell you what the Gemara says. The Gemara says Nefel, and I saw in the commentary, the Gemara says Nefel. He killed a Nefel, thought he was killing a Nefel. So now what is that Nefel that he thought he was killing? But it wasn't a Nefel. It was a Ben Kayama. It was a child that was a living child that's going to live. So what's called a Nefel? So look at the commentary over here. Look at the commentary says the following. Certain infants, number 18, the comment. Certain infants, you have it, 18? Certain infants that were born in the 8th month of pregnancy or during the first 6 months, are assumed to be non-viable, and killing them is therefore not a capital offense.
What is?
Okay, that's a good question. This was only true, one more line, Mr. Haber. This was true only in earlier generations. The physical nature of man has subsequently changed. That's what the Chazon Ish says. So therefore, things have changed in the strength of children and the ability of children to make it today. So you have babies born in very early, right. So therefore, it's a good question. Like we say, what is a certain infant? That I have to look up that Gemara. But we have in Gemara is that if a full-term pregnancy, that is the baby is a viable baby. Yeah, we're talking about right. This is the Nefel is a baby that's going to die. Exactly. So the Torah, again, it's living now, but the Torah does not obligate the capital punishment of death the same way if a person kills a treifa, a person who has some sort of physical defect in their body that they're going to die as a result of that defect within a certain amount of time, and a person killed that person. That type of person, the Torah does not obligate death. Of course, it's a very big sin to do that to a person, but no, exile is not enough. But but what happened was he thought it was a non-viable, but it was a real viable baby. No, he don't. No, he doesn't go to exile. He doesn't. What? Let's say there's a certain hole, he has a hole in his lung, or some type of thing. That type of thing that we know that the fact is he's going to die because of this hole, and there's no way to stitch up the hole. What? God will take care of it. Don't worry. Nobody gets away with anything. There's no such thing. Right. We have to always remember. So even when a person does not want to miss the B'tesh, even when the person does not go to exile, the court doesn't take. God takes care of everything. Will take care of the person. Right. So, right, because you killed a dead man, like Nathan said. If the court sentenced someone. Good morning, Mr. Feldman. If the court sentenced somebody to death, there was a Gemar Din. There was a court sentencing, then someone, boom, kills that person, he will not get killed for killing a person because the person that he killed was in a certain state, a dead man. he's going to die. That's not the type of person that the Torah obligates death for killing. The Torah obligates death for killing. Again, Ariel, he did a terrible sin, but it's not the guy that the Torah is going to say you have to kill a person for killing that type of person. It has to be a certain type of person. Right. Okay, so, unless we have to know exactly whatever we know.
Usually you learn that have abortion.
There's some other psukim that we have that abortion is forbidden. Gentiles get death, by the way. You should know. You mentioned abortion. If a Gentile aborts a baby, intentionally, they get the obligation is death. The Jews don't get death for aborting. It's a terrible sin, but they don't get death for abortion. It's a terrible, terrible sin. Okay, just a side point. Okay. Right. Say it again. If they want to save the mother, that's a difference. That mother shouldn't die. Okay. The Gemara continues. So the Gemara says that's the three cases. Amarabba Pratlim is having if a person had intention to kill an animal, but it wasn't an animal, it was a person. Or the kuti or the goy, some have a different text. He had in mind to kill a goy, Israel, and he killed a Jew. The Nefel, he had in mind to kill a child that will not live. Ben Kayam, an early child that will not live, and he killed a Ben Kayama. In all three cases, exile is not enough. And therefore he does not go. The pasuk emphasis bibli das, without intent. This is too much. There's too much knowledge. There's too much focus. Too much. He aimed. He shot, but he was negligent. That he doesn't go to exile for such a thing. Exile is not enough. Now the Gemara continues in similar case. Tana Rabbanan. In the Peta, you suddenly kill somebody. It was sudden, unexpected. However, prat the Karens of it. If a guy goes ahead and holds a knife in his hand, and he holds a knife in his hand, and he turns the corner, and there's another guy standing right there when you turn the corner, right? So what do you expect to happen if the guy is there when you turn the corner and you're holding a knife in your hand? I didn't mean to kill the guy. Okay, it's true you didn't mean to kill the guy. You're holding a knife in your hand. You're holding a butcher's knife in your hand. That's negligence. So that's not the case of the Torah. When the Torah says it was sudden, unexpected, but if something which is, but in the case of the corner, that would be, you will not go to exile. Too much of a sin. The exile is not enough. If a petak, prat l'kerens of it, excludes the case of the corner. That he will not go to exile because exile is not enough. Even though it wasn't a permit, he had no intention to kill anybody. But you're walking with a 10-inch blade, and you're walking, and you're walking, and you're turning, and you're walking fast, and he's turning the corner. So you're going to tell you, I didn't mean to kill anybody, but you have this knife, right? Right, they're adding new cases and new cases. One age, and they're all in additional drashot to the other one. It's not arguing on the other drashot. So more cases that the Torah is excluding. Next case, below Eva, you killed a guy without any hatred. There was no. So the Gemara says, "Prat l'sonei," but that means if you're an enemy of somebody, and you go ahead and you say, "I didn't mean to kill him." No. We're afraid that if you're an enemy of somebody, and somebody gets killed, most likely you had in mind to kill the guy. So if you're an enemy of a guy, and then we're going to say, and someone gets killed b'shogeg unintentionally, and you say you did it, yeah, I didn't mean to kill the guy. You're in the forest and you're chopping wood, and your enemy's right nearby, and then something goes flying and kills your enemy, and you say, I didn't mean to kill him. So under certain normal circumstances, you go to exile for if you're chopping wood and something goes flying and you kill the guy next to you. But the enemy, he will not go to because we're afraid you intended to kill the guy. I mean, we need to know in a certain sense that this was unintentional. But if we could say, if we would do betting, we don't like betting, we don't want to bet, don't get people to bet. But if we would bet, the odds are he had in mind to kill the guy because it's his enemy. Therefore, we can't send this guy to go. Okay, that's the case. Next case of the Gemara. No, it sounds like one. That's a good question. A lot of right. Prat l'sonei. So let's see how the Mefarshim explain. Shem hoya horeg. They tried the horeg, the one who did the act of murder was an enemy l'neherag mikolachem. He was an enemy
of the victim, which means the person the killer.
It's it's not clear. You know what I'm saying? You know. So that's it sounds like I have, you know, the Torah says don't hate your friend. So it's talking about the guy that might not hate me, but I hate him. Versus don't hate him. The Torah's case of hatred is not necessarily a two-way street that I hate you and you hate me. The Torah says don't hate the other guy, even because first of all, hopefully the other guy doesn't hate you, but don't hate him. The victim hates the killer, and I don't hate him. So why? Very good. Let's spell out your case. If the victim hates the killer, but the killer doesn't hate the victim, why should we say because the victim hates the killer killed him? If that guy hates me, he has a problem. I don't have a problem with the guy. He has a problem with me. I'm going to kill him. He's not. He has his problem. He has his issues. So I don't think we're going to say because he doesn't. I'm saying perhaps logic. I mean, we have to see in the halacha. I don't think the fact that I killed this guy because he didn't like me, that would be a reason why most probably I killed him because he didn't like me. Most people don't kill people because they don't like them. The other guy doesn't like him. People hurt people because they don't like the other guy. It's more, that's why I would rather emphasize. But you could translate it. He was an enemy of the victim. That means the killer hated the victim. You could translate in those words too. Right. Why is he an enemy of the victim? Because he hates the victim. Now, the Gemara says, Hadafo, he knocked the guy down. What is it? What's the case of Torah? Torah says if you went and you knocked the guy down, and the guy died, you go to the exile. What's the case? What's the case? What the pasuk says? If suddenly, without hatred, you knock the guy down. So so the Gemara says, how did you knock the guy down? The pasuk says that even you bumped into the guy with your body, a body check. You knocked him down to the floor. Let's say the case might be a 2-year-old child or something. You bumped into the guy. You knocked him to the ground, and that person died. So Rashi says, as long as you did not intend to do that, and the person died, you would be able. Let's say it was a concrete ground. It's an accident that will go to exile. That's the case. That's how Rashi. What? Right. That's how some learn the Gemara. You would go to exile. There's different opinions, but that's how we're going to go with that opinion for now. Have a great day, everybody. Back tomorrow. So anybody who's traveling, wishing everyone safe trips. But we'll be here. What did you say? Yes. Yeah, I want to tell everybody for 1 second an amazing story. I was in Israel last week. I spoke at Yeshiva Tiv Aryeh, and it was a Sephardi class, Rav Tzadok's class. I wanted to speak to the guys, talk to them about different opportunities. You come back to town learning, you go to university, and I see they had the Gemaras open. What Gemara were they learning? Gemara Makkos. Where were they up to? Vav on the base. Where were we up to when I left? Vav on the base. I asked them, where are you, where on the page? Exactly the Mishnah that we were up to. Exactly. They were blown away. Rabbi, you were up to this Mishnah and you came to this Mishiva and you spoke Makkos, the Mishnah. How do you say that like that, Mr. Haver? No, I didn't. You had the rabbi. Right, exactly. That wild story or not? Nathan's an amazing thing. Yeah, I know. You're right. It's my fault. Have a great day, Yosef. Have a great day, Akiva.
Have a good day, Rabbi. So what, the yeshiva there, they spoke English?
Same.
In this year, they only spoke Hebrew in that year. Thank you. Everything good. Yes, looking forward. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care. Have a great day. They spoke only Hebrew in this year, Yosef. Only Hebrew. Tzadok. How do you like that? Americans speaking only Hebrew in the class, Torah class.
These are kids from families.
From traditional families.
Oh, okay.
Have a great day. I'm going to go upstairs to pray. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.